What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Empire on Deck. I am Roman. Let's jump into Sunday's action. The first game of the day, there wasn't much to report on. It was the first game of a doubleheader, thanks to Saturday's game being postponed between the Chicago Cubs and the Cleveland Guardians. And it was a pitcher's duel all the way through, with Edward Cabrera going 5 2/3, allowing just a single hit and striking out 4. And Ciccone for the Guardians matched that, going 6 innings, allowing just 1 hit and striking out 6. That's right, there was a total for the game of 3 hits in this game, and the Cubs won it in the top of the 8th with the only run of the game off a Miguel Amaya single. The Cubs won game 1 of the doubleheader 1-0. And we'll go ahead and jump straight into game 2 of the doubleheader, even though it was later in the day, and I usually try to run through these games in the order that they were played, but because it's on my notes as game 1 and game 2, we'll just go straight into it. This one was a bit more high scoring, although most of that scoring came late because the starting pitchers, once again, were pretty good in this one. It was Shota Imanaga for the Cubs and Parker Messick for the Guardians. If you followed Empire Sports Talk for any length of time, you know I'm a big fan of both of those guys. Imanaga went 5 innings pitched, just 3 hits allowed, 1 earned run, and 4 Ks. And Messick had a very similar line, going 5 innings pitched, 2 hits, 1 earned run, and 6 Ks. Most of the offense came after those guys left the game, and most of the offense was led by Gabriel Arias, going 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs, and CJ Kayfus smacking a home run and getting 2 RBIs of his own. The Guardians won game 2, evening the doubleheader 6-5. The Dodgers and Nationals, even though the Dodgers went for the sweep, played a pretty close series, and I don't think we're giving the Nationals enough credit for the way that they've played so far this season. Despite being 3-6 through 9 games, they have put up good offense, they have played well against good teams, and in this finale against the Dodgers, they traded homers in the 3rd inning. Ohtani hit 1 in the top of the 3rd, and Luis Garcia Jr. answered with 1 of his own in the bottom of the 3rd. It was Washington that led 6-1 after a James Wood homer in the 4th inning, but the Dodgers scored 4 in the 8th and 1 in the 9th. Something they've done really well this season is scoring the go-ahead runs late in games, and it was Ohtani that drove in the game-winning run in the 9th on a sacrifice fly. The Dodgers complete the sweep of the Nationals 8-6, and we saw a few teams complete sweeps on Sunday, including the Pittsburgh Pirates, who have now won 5 in a row. They completed the sweep of the Baltimore Orioles. They jumped all over Chris Bassitt, scoring 6 runs in the first 2 innings. And I have to say, I feel for Chris Bassitt because it was in the 2nd inning after he'd already thrown 60 pitches that Oneill Cruz lined a ball that had a 112 exit velocity off of Bassitt's hamstring, and Bassitt hit the ground, and it took him a minute to get up. He did stay in the game, but this one was all Pittsburgh. Oneill Cruz and Ryan O'Hearn, who, by the way, Ryan O'Hearn is probably the best decision that Pittsburgh made in the offseason. Oneill Cruz and Ryan O'Hearn both added homers in this game and drove in a combined 7 of Pittsburgh's 8 runs. And it was Braxton Ashcraft dazzling on the mound for Pittsburgh, going 6 innings, just 1 earned run, and 8 strikeouts. Pittsburgh completed the sweep of Baltimore 8-2. Boston and San Diego traded runs in a high-scoring affair of 2 struggling teams in that series finale, but it was Jackson Merrill and Manny Machado who led the way for San Diego in this one. Merrill went 3 for 5 with a home run and 2 RBIs, and Machado went 2 for 4 with a home run in the 5th inning and 3 RBIs. Wilyer Abreu went 3 for 4 for the Red Sox, coming up a home run shy of the cycle, and Yoshida added 2 doubles, 3 RBIs, and a stolen base, but that wasn't enough for the still struggling Boston Red Sox, who are now 2-7, as they fell to the Padres 8-6. And it was the Marlins salvaging a game against the MLB best Yankees in the Sunday finale, 7-6. Ben Rice had a 3-run homer for the Yankees in this one, but it was the Marlins taking care of business, scoring 4 runs in the 8th. And surprise, surprise, the player of the game for Miami was once again Xavier Edwards, who went 2 for 4 with a double, 3 RBIs, and a stolen base. The Marlins won 7-6 to improve to 6-3 on the season. The next game to talk about is Tampa Bay and Minnesota. Matt Wallner homered for Minnesota in the 2nd inning. Junior Caminero answered with a homer for Tampa Bay in the 4th, and that was the only scoring until this game went to extra innings tied at 1. And then it was Tampa Bay who scored 3 in the 10th, including a Richie Palacios homer to take care of this one. And I do want to give a shout out. I don't normally call out the bullpen arm that got the win in an extra inning game, except for in this game, the Tampa pitcher that got the win was Brian Baker, who was a former classmate of mine at the University of North Florida. So I want to call out the UNF alum, Brian Baker, on picking up his first win of the season for the Tampa Bay Rays. The Milwaukee Brewers pull even with the New York Yankees for baseball's best record at 7-2 after beating the Kansas City Royals 8-5 on Sunday. Maikel Garcia did go 2 for 5 with a homer and 3 RBIs, but it wasn't enough for Kansas City, as William Contreras went 2 for 3 with a double, 2 walks, and 2 RBIs. And Gary Sanchez also chipped in a homer and 2 RBIs for the Brew Crew, and they won this one 8-5. And it was the Chicago White Sox who made history, speaking of several sweeps that took place, as they completed the 3-0 sweep of the Toronto Blue Jays on Sunday, fittingly winning the game 3-0. Davis Martin went 6 shutout innings for the White Sox with 6 Ks, and the White Sox RBIs came on a Miguel Vargas triple in the 1st, a Lenyn Sosa double in the 3rd, and an Austin Hayes single in the 4th. But I did mention the history. This was the first home sweep of the Toronto Blue Jays for the White Sox in 30 years, and it was their first sweep in their home opening series since 2004. So congratulations to the Chicago White Sox on a great weekend with a little bit of history. But the real question is, do we have to worry about the former AL champs as they go into a World Series rematch with the Dodgers next week? I guess we'll find out. Chase Burns was excellent again for the Cincinnati Reds as he went 6 innings, allowing just 1 earned run with 9 strikeouts. And there were only 3 total runs scored in this one, another low-scoring game for Cincinnati. They're becoming really good at winning these low-scoring games, and that could serve them very well if they're able to make it to October. But Eugenio Suarez led off the scoring with an RBI single in the 4th. Jock Peterson notched it up at 1 for Texas with a solo homer in the 7th. And Elly De La Cruz notched the game-winning RBI on a single in the 8th. Speaking of sweeps and teams we should be concerned about, Cincinnati completed the sweep of Texas. And it's Cincinnati that improves to 6-3 on the season. It was Colorado that got one back against Philadelphia as Mickey Moniak homered twice in this one. And it was Sagano on the mound going 6 innings pitched, allowing just 1 earned run and 9 strikeouts. The lone run for the Philadelphia Phillies was a solo home run by Adolis Garcia. The Rockies win the finale 4-1. In the finale of the 4-game series between the Atlanta Braves and the Arizona Diamondbacks, it was Ketel Marte who had a big game with 2 doubles and an RBI, including the walk-off double for Arizona, as they beat Atlanta to even the 4-game series at 2 games apiece, 6-5 in 10 innings. But Corbin Carroll also went 3 for 4 and added a triple. I also wanted to mention the fact that Drake Baldwin went 3 for 5 with a homer and drove in 4 of Atlanta's 5 runs, because I feel like early in the season, the Braves are relying a little bit too much on the second-year catcher. And Atlanta, their problem in this one was they left 10 runners on base. And the amount of times they struck out on full counts, too, was something to look at. But it's Arizona that came out on top in this one, 6-5 in 10 innings. It was an absolute slugfest between the Houston Astros and the Athletics, 12-10. There was 22 runs scored on 27 hits between the two teams, and instead of giving you many individual stats, because pretty much everybody in the lineup contributed in some way to this offense, what I will tell you is that between the two teams, there were 5 separate half innings in this game where 3 runs or more were scored in that half inning. 5 separate half innings. The 2 players that I will call out, though, are Tyler Soderstrom and Brent Rooker. Tyler Soderstrom drove in 3 RBIs, but it was Brent Rooker that played the hero and did most of the damage, homering twice and driving in 6 runs, including the walk-off homer that gave the Athletics the 12-10 win. Logan Webb and Kodai Senga were excellent for the Giants and Mets respectively. Webb went 7 innings, allowing just 1 run, and Senga went 5 2/3 innings, striking out 7 batters. But the Mets scored 4 runs in the 8th inning and won the finale against the Giants 5-2. This was another high-scoring game that I'm not going to go super into every single run that was scored and every single hit, but the Angels won a back-and-forth contest with the Seattle Mariners 8-7, and Adam Frazier had a great game, going 3 for 4 with a double and an RBI, but it was Nolan Shonowell who won it in the 11th on a walk-off sacrifice fly. Now, 2 other things I want to call out from this game. One that was pretty funny, one that's not so funny. First, the not so funny. Mike Trout is day-to-day after being hit by a pitch on his hand, so we'll have to wait and see how everything shakes out there. The funny thing is, a day after Joe Adell robbed the Seattle Mariners of not 1, not 2, but 3 home runs in the 1-0 victory by the Angels, there was a picture from inside the Seattle Mariners clubhouse where one of the only things written on the whiteboard was "Don't hit the ball" to Joe Adell. So I did find that pretty funny. But it was the Angels winning the series finale 8-7 to get back to 500 on the young season at 5-5. And in the final game of the day on NBC Sunday Night Baseball, it was the Detroit Tigers and St. Louis Cardinals. Kerry Carpenter put Detroit on the board early with his 2nd straight game with a home run, but St. Louis scored 4 runs in the 5th, headlined by an Ivan Herrera 2 RBI single, and that was all that St. Louis needed as they won this Sunday night showcase 5-3 over the Tigers. That is all I have for you for Sunday's action in Major League Baseball. This has been Empire on Deck. I am Roman Gennaro, and I will see you to recap Monday's action.